At the age when most kids are playing with toy blocks, Amelia was climbing the kitchen counters to get to the cupboards to obtain food, preferably chocolate chip cookies. Left to her own devices, while her parents were away photographing melting ice caps, she learned if she wanted to eat something, she had to climb for it. No one was there to ask for help. As she grew older, her skill and reputation as a climber grew, such that when a kitten went up a tree, Amelia was the girl in the neighborhood to call. On her 10th birthday, she was chewing on her rainbow-colored hair during math class when the question came to her what was the tallest tree in the county and if she could climb it. When she found the tallest tree, a dying oak 100 feet high, she dispatched the monolith blindfolded without telling anyone. Climbing under the moonlight, alone among the shadows and the hooting owls, was her refuge during her formative years. What mattered were the outdoors, despite the heat. One school year, she walked the hallways backwards in an attempt to reverse all that had led her to her present life, namely, a state of neglected home and bullying at school. The other girls would make fun of the scabs and scratches on her knees and the dirt under her nails. During PE, she would sit in the corner of the locker room with her teddy bear, talking to it, petting it, and the girls would snatch it away, dunk it in the toilet, and chase her around the locker room with it outstretched, screaming and holding their noses. Sometimes she would eat paper in class because she was hungry. One boy named James was nice, but he was crazy. He only wanted to stand in the soccer field staring up at the sky. The other boys gave her friendship, which was usually initiated with a poorly scrawled love note and concluded with them fondling her under the bleachers. By the time she was 38, still unmarried, she was well used up. However, she did have a best friend, which can be a rare and precious thing. Her name was Fatima. They climbed together at the local climbing gym, which was practically Amelia's second home. When one day celebrity climber Alex Donald visited the climbing gym, Amelia got tunnel vision. The gym director was giving him a tour of the facility. "Hey, congratulations on your Academy Award," said the gym director. "That was the best documentary I've ever seen. Truly inspirational." "It was no big deal," said Alex. Amelia turned to Fatima. "I have to have him." By a divine miracle, she got to shake his hand. She did not wash it for days. She bombarded Alex with questions about climbing and rubbed her body against his body and even pulled off his shirt at the gym. On the way out, Alex turned to the gym director and said, "Who was that woman? She was a bit different." The gym director's voice lowered. "She was a regular here, but it won't happen again." "I'm planning to invest big in this company, and this was mostly a great gym," said Alex. "Our staff do our best to keep out the bad apples, but one or two slip through. I have a flight to catch in an hour. My people will be in touch," said Alex. "He was even more handsome in person, wasn't he?" said Amelia. She was belaying Fatima, who was a slow climber and who everyone refused to belay except Amelia. In turn, Fatima was the only woman who did not judge Amelia for sleeping with dirtbag climbers in the parking lot in their vans. "I'm going to climb El Capitan," said Amelia. "The mountain of trash in New Jersey?" asked Fatima. "Yes," said Amelia, "without ropes, just me and the garbage. If I fall, I will already be on the heap." "It sounds dangerous," said Fatima, squeezing into her climbing shoes. "Is this to impress Alex?" "I'm doing it for the love of the sport," said Amelia. Fatima eyed her suspiciously, then climbed up the wall, one careful move at a time. Then, randomly, the intercom called Amelia to the front desk. That had never happened before. After lowering Fatima, Amelia went to see what they wanted. The gym director invited her into his office. "The gym is at full capacity," said the gym director. "We have to revoke some memberships." "Why me?" asked Amelia. "It was a lottery." "Who else will be released?" "Well, I can't, just you." "I haven't climbed the roof once this year." It's not that. You just don't fit the profile of clientele we're trying to retain and attract. What's wrong with me? Oh, look at the time. I have to run. Amelia left the gym. She sat on the pavement of the parking lot, crying until she felt dried up like a raisin. In the months following, without anywhere else to go, she started climbing garbage heaps. It was around this time she also started writing letters to Alex Donald to ask him for tips, although never explicitly mentioning her goal of climbing El Capitan. On each letter, she would spritz perfume to hide the garbage smell that emanated from her skin. Though her expectation of a response to her letters never ebbed, she grew more and more convinced the address of Alex's personal residence, given to her by a private detective, was not worth cleaning out her savings account. At least the flowers she sent herself, in care of Alex, brightened her mood. One day, her boss called her into his office at the Global Warming Regret Center. The tattoos, the piercings, the constant challenges to authority, walking around topless in the office, smelling like garbage. It's not what we're looking for in an employee, said her boss. We like you, but I don't know what. He said these words with his palms open like he was willing to accept any answer. Amelia was silent at first. Finally, she snapped her suspenders and said, "Well, I like working at the GWRC, so I'm staying." These things are always complicated, said the manager, sighing. Please don't make it any harder than it is. Okay, said Amelia. I'm leaving. But what do you have against me? We like you. Amelia folded her arms. Wearing shirts is a stupid social construct. Everybody's body is beautiful, and seeing another woman's imperfections, lopsided breasts, for example, furthers the cause. Of global warming? Of acceptance. It's more that you're weird? Asked Amelia. Well, for heaven's sake, you have a name carved in your arm. What am I supposed to do? Amelia collected her pictures of Alex from her cubicle and walked out. At first, getting fired opened more time for studying ancient mythology, experimenting with avant-garde art forms, and of course, training for El Capitan. Later, it was evident she was in definite need of money. With her last paycheck, she bought a privacy curtain for her dented Ford Taurus, a headlamp for climbing at night, and other such supplies. Meanwhile, without a belayer, Fatima froze her gym membership. Moreover, stress eating made her gain more weight. The answer was cosmetic surgery. I want a bariatric, lipo, and a boob job, said Fatima, smoothing her disposable hospital gown daintily as her wide rear end crinkled on the exam table. The exam room was filled with the smell of the surgeon's aftershave. The surgeon interlaced his fingers across his chest and leaned back in his chair. It will be expensive. I know, said Fatima. Let's have a look. Remove your gown. Fatima did so, and the surgeon averted his eyes as he wetted his hands in the faucet with barely any water due to the drought. He uncapped a marker with his mouth and drew potential incisions on her skin. Fatima lifted her breasts, turned sideways, raised her arms, and sucked in her gut. When I get done with you, said the surgeon, you're going to be overwhelmed by all the attention. He rolled back towards the door and admired his handiwork. But the way you look now, it's not working. I can see the beautiful specimen underneath. I always tell my patients, life is good, but it's better when you're beautiful. Shut up, said Fatima, her hands covered sobs exploding from her face. Now you have hope. Can't you see I'm crying? asked Fatima. The surgeon withdrew to his office. The silence could be cut with a scalpel when she followed him in. You're about to make the right decision. I want you to know we have payment plans, said the surgeon. Fatima tempered her emotions. Are you even listening to me? She was standing there naked, marked up like a homework paper, and shivering, and he was talking about payment plans. His eyes rose up from his clipboard to meet hers. You can put your clothes back on now, he said. How about you take your clothes off? She said. Well, I don't think that's appropriate. I mean... You mean what? She demanded. He loosened his tie with a finger, swallowed. Let's see if you have a heart in that chest, said Fatima, taking a stethoscope and a lab coat off the coat rack. The surgeon backed up with his palms flat against the door. His voice said no, but his body said yes. Alex took a protein smoothie from the stainless steel refrigerator and turned to face his wife. His body was chiseled out of granite. He often walked around his mansion shirtless. Tawny Donald stood in the giant kitchen, flipping through a stack of mail, not looking up at her husband. The kitchen alone was the size of a small house. On one perfume-smelling letter, she stopped. What is up with all these letters from this Amelia woman? Who is she? Alex approached her and looked over her shoulder. Oh, some crazy lady. Do you read her letters? Asked Tawny. You know, it's my rule to read all my fan mail. Tell her to stop. How do I do that? He smirked. Tawny threw open drawers to find a pen. When she found one, she leaned on the island and set to furiously scribbling a letter. When she finished, she slapped the pen down on the marble countertop and pointed at the letter. Sign it, she said. Do you really think this will stop her from writing again? Asked Alex. It better, said Tawny. Alex shrugged and added his autograph, the same one he used for signing his climbing memoirs. I feel like your fucking secretary, Alex. I shouldn't be doing this. She licked the envelope, stuffed the letter inside, and searched for a return address on the stained and wrinkled letter. The dog sniffed at it and she kicked it away. Move, Roscoe! What am I supposed to do? Excommunicate her from the climbing community? Alex asked. No, it would damage your perfect reputation. Maybe you should add her to your harem of admirers. Admirers? What if I stab myself in the heart with a kitchen knife? Then you can marry her. Would that make you happy? You're acting a bit melodramatic. Alex regretted the words before they left his mouth. I'm sorry. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. Don't touch me! She slapped his hand away and stormed out. The letter reached Amelia some days later. She stood in the post office reading it and was surprised it was written in such feminine handwriting. Once the shock of seeing the letter wore off, the questions pinballed in her brain. What if he doesn't love me and he really loves his wife? She thought. Her face went hot. Oh no, never. He must see through Tawny. Feeling resolute in his distant yet faithful love, Amelia thanked the postal workers and skipped out into the hot sun to visit the food bank for breakfast. On the way to the food bank, she stopped and braced herself against a telephone pole. She doubled over and vomited on the pavement, splattering her ankles with last night's moldy bread and expired milk. Once the nausea subsided, she wiped her mouth with her arm and continued on her way. She arrived at the food bank a few minutes later and got in line. One of the guys there was a dirtbag climber she recognized from the climbing gym. Had she slept with him? She couldn't remember. Maybe he was the father. So many men had told her they loved her, the word was meaningless. She left the line and headed to the city dump on an empty stomach. It had rained the night before, and so the garbage mountains were soggier than usual. There is no suffering on this earth worse than the plight of an unadjusted freak climbing alone on a heap of garbage. The sizzle of the sun baking soggy diapers, filth stinging the nostrils with humanity's putrefaction, spoiled food and used baby diapers. It is a metaphor for the freak soul as it burns in the chest of the unlucky social stratum without the mental makeup to be the right person at the right time. The waste mountain she climbed that particular day was the height of 10 years worth of modern living. Papers fluttered in the air. An excavator opened its grapple to drop a fresh load of garbage onto the heap. Before every climb, Amelia prayed, "Dear Lord, please make me fall soon. Let it be a quick death." A backpack was on her back in case she found along the route keepsakes, like baby clothes. It was a routine day for her. Much of it was spent wondering what normal people were doing and why she couldn't fit in with them. She climbed the mountain without issue. Thoroughly exhausted afterwards, she laid on the ground to rest. Rats, which she was too exhausted to fend off, scurried in the trash, sneaking out to nibble at her rainbow hair. Insects sucked at her open cuts. Her muscles ached. The smog was faint in that part of town. There was beauty to the way the sun set behind the waste mountains in the evenings, haloing the garbage in an orange glow. She got up and snuck through the no trespassing fence and found her car. In it, she sorted bags of dirty laundry and moved boxes around to make room for sleeping. It was just another day, except today she had made a decision. When the baby came, she would give it up for adoption. The hotel room was strewn with sex toys and liquor. Fatima and the surgeon were wearing bathrobes on the balcony of the beachfront hotel. They shared a cigarette. "I was wrong," said the surgeon, letting out a stream of smoke from his nose. "About what?" said Fatima. You are perfect the way you are. You don't need any cosmetic surgery." "You know, that was good exercise," she said. "How about another round?" The surgeon threw the cigarette away. "Can you use the whip this time?" She took his hand and pulled him inside the room. Amelia's letters to Halleck started coming back, return to sender. Mentally, she ran through all the letters she wrote and concluded the prose was atrocious. It was her fault, and that bitch Tanya, of course, that Halleck wasn't responding. She reread one of her old, tear-stained letters. "My beloved Halleck, I know you will not read this. I will keep writing letters because I need to exercise the abundance of love I have for you. I will keep writing letters because I need to exercise the abundance of love I have for you. I kept writing you the wrong things. My words were just ink on paper. I am ignored by the love of my life. I am writing this in my car. All that stuff they say in movies about caring more about someone other than yourself is bullshit. Love is selfish. When will you notice me, Halleck? Love for 30,000 years, Amelia." Hope rekindled when Amelia saw in a social media post Halleck would be in town on a book tour for his recent climbing memoir. She unloaded the stray cats from her Ford Taurus, hopped in the driver's seat, and put the pedal to the floorboard. At the bookstore, standing in line with all the fans waiting for their books to be signed, she felt like a queen amongst the peasantry. When she got to the king, she dropped a bundle of returned letters onto the table and asked, "Why?" Halleck looked at the names on the letters. "Oh, fuck," he said. "This is a forever love, a type of love you've never, ever experienced," said Amelia. Halleck looked around for help. "Did you ever even read them?" urged Amelia, pressing her knuckles onto the table. "Please don't hurt my family." "You need someone who truly loves you. I'm sorry, honey. One moment." Amelia looked over her shoulder, told the people in line behind her to go home. When she turned her attention back to Alex, he was using a chair as a defense like a lion tamer. "Sorry, folks, Alex has a busy schedule today," said the manager. "We'll have to end the signing early." His entourage engulfed Alex. "Please, check out the fall issue of Climbing Magazine," said Amelia. She ran after him and grabbed his arm. "Promise me you'll read it," she said. Security broke them up before she could get a response from him. The journalist from Climbing Magazine was the only person in attendance when Amelia stood at the base of El Capitan, looking up. "Here I go," said Amelia. Up she went. About halfway, she spotted a trinket Fatima would like, a Polly Pocket. Fatima would love that, Amelia thought. She reached for it. Something shifted up above. An avalanche of rusted car bodies tumbled down the mountain, knocking her off and nearly crushing the journalist below. Amelia fell 50 feet onto an old air conditioner unit and shattered her pelvis. Miraculously, she survived, although she lost her baby. While yes, she wanted to give it up for adoption, we at least want to see the booger in the tissue before we throw it away. Amelia's eyes instinctively shot towards the door whenever she heard footsteps past her hospital room. At first, only Fatima visited, bringing flowers and signing Amelia's casts. Then one night, Amelia turned on the TV in her room to see herself on the news. She thought it was the morphine, but then she saw the journalist from Climbing Magazine being interviewed. He must have reported her story. The title on the TV read, "Pregnant Woman Falls During First Attempt on El Capitan." Soon the paparazzi, old friends, and family showed up at her hospital room. She was inundated with flowers and visits. A wealthy donor even covered her medical bills. When she returned to climbing, her grip strength was gone, as were her calluses. Her body needed work. She almost gave up, but persevered for Alex. It took many months of recovery before she felt confident giving El Capitan a second attempt. Finally, she was ready. Weather conditions were good. News outlets were out in force to witness the event. A line of cars a mile long parked outside the municipal dump. After a deep breath, Amelia began. Her chalk bag was a discarded Renaissance fair-esque leather satchel. On one foot was a Chuck Taylor All-Star, and on the other was a saddle shoe. Black fishnet stockings and a black corset had her warrior princess body in almost all black, except for her rainbow hair as bright as Mr. Sketch markers flowing behind her. At the base of the mountain, items she encountered included a mink coat, a Harding Cox campaign poster, Mickey Mouse ears, a phonograph player, a Hackercraft wooden boat, and a pack of Lucky Strikes. Having rehearsed the route with ropes, she moved fast because she knew what crap was stable enough to hold on to and what would pull off. Up she went, past a yo-yo, a poodle skirt, an M1 carbine, an Edsel car, and a Nixon button. It was easy climbing up to the death zone, which was a few hundred feet off the deck. When she reached the section where the avalanche occurred last time, she again had a mishap. She pulled off a cornice of Clive Cussler novels, almost crushing a throng of observers below and changing the route she had practiced. No longer having every hold memorized, she had to improvise. Her whole arm sank into the mountain to find a sturdy hold. Her foot slipped on a Dave Clark 5 album, but she caught herself on a William Shatner laser rifle. "Alex Donald is probably watching on TV," she told herself. Her hand was wedged inside a VHS aperture on a cathode ray television. The difference between life and falling 3,000 feet into an abyss of trash bags was that fist jam, and she rested. She spotted a box of animal crackers. Remembering this was nothing more than climbing a large kitchen cabinet to get cookies or a tree to save a kitten, she collected herself and flew up that chimney of mainframe computers to the crux. With an NSYNC concert tour shirt, she wiped her face before completing the crux. An array of leg warmers, Cabbage Patch Kids, American Girl dolls, Pokemon cards, ab rollers, Trump for President signs, N95 masks, and robot dogs. Blood dripped from multiple lacerations on her body. A lollipop was stuck in her hair. Adults had to look away for fear she might fall, while young girls' eyes were glued to the birth of a heroine of their generation. There was music in her climbing. When she topped out, she was standing on the tip of a steel girder, legs straight, posture triumphant, one hand holding an American flag waving in the wind. Specks of people clapped for her and shouted up to her, and camera flashes sparkled. She waved at the drones encircling for aerial footage. Beyond the garbage dump stood apartment buildings, traffic lights, gunshots, and car horns, an old lady shouting out the balcony, a choir clapping, billboards flashing, coal plants burning, and high school students watching her with binoculars. "Why do I feel so alone?" she whispered to the city. From her satchel, she removed a ratty, chalk-covered teddy bear and sat with it on her lap while watching the world breathe. After she climbed down, a reporter, one hand plugging her nose, the other holding up a microphone, asked, "What is the meaning of life?" Hair flaked with bits of trash, skin caked with grime, Amelia looked directly in the camera. "To keep going," she said. "Also, I want to shout out to Alex Donald. Hey, Alex, I did it." Tani shouldered her way through the crowd to get Amelia's attention. She shoved the reporter aside and spoke fast. "This is your day, and I don't want to ruin it for you, but I need to show you something," she said. "What are you doing here?" said Amelia. "Just watch." Tani showed Amelia her phone. On it was Alex. Concurrently, Fatima observed the clamor from the edge of the crowd, a smile of serene pleasure on her face. Her hand held that of the surgeon. "I'm so proud of her," said Fatima. She squeezed his hand. "Psst, want to know a secret?" She brought his shoulder down and whispered in his ear. "She did it for Alex." "He's got to be impressed by it. An amazing feat," said the surgeon. "I hope so," said Fatima. "Let's find her a good guy who isn't married," he said. "She will never go for another man besides Alex." "We need to try." "You naughty boy." They nuzzled noses. The throng of reporters and fans engulfed Amelia, making it hard to hear Alex speak. She held the phone close to her ear. "Congratulations," Alex said. "Thank you," said Amelia. Tears filled her eyes. "I hope you know I'm going to beat your speed record." "I welcome you to try." "Hey, listen," Alex continued, striking a serious tone. "I cannot heal you. I cannot solve your life. I am not home. You need to stop contacting me." Amelia felt nauseous for the first time that day. "Okay." She handed the phone back to Tani. She felt like she was being crushed under the mountain of trash. "I'm sorry," said Tani. Amelia hugged her. "I knew it. I am a freak." "Shh," Tani comforted her. "You can change." A few months later, Amelia was on a helicopter above Manhattan with Fatima and the surgeon. The rising sea level had submerged the streets and sidewalks of Manhattan, leaving the city abandoned and quiet. These days, it was virtually inaccessible except by helicopter. The helicopter tour ended on the rooftop of 432 Park Avenue. "Give us your phone and get out," said Fatima. "Trust us." She and the surgeon winked at each other. Amelia was on the cover of every major climbing magazine. She had inspired a whole generation of young women to climb garbage. So when she turned over her phone and the helicopter flew away, it was the first time in months she was completely disconnected. She sat on the edge of the building, watching a pod of dolphins swim down Park Avenue. Soon an airplane flew overhead. A black dot emerged from it, which grew larger until it reached the form of a parachute, which deftly landed on the rooftop. The man unattached the parachute and removed his mask and goggles. He was dressed in a tuxedo. "I'm a huge fan of yours," said the man. "She was standing on the edge of the building," continued the man. "I am an alien from outer space." "Oh, that's nice," said Amelia, wondering if she should jump or climb down. "On my planet, men love freaks like you. Would you like a bubble bath?" Who are you really? Besides the most strange man she had ever met. You know, when I was 13, I actually thought I was an alien. I wore a green antenna to school and touched fingers with people to read their minds. I would stand in the soccer field and stare up at the sky to see UFOs. That was you?" said Amelia. "Now I'm a billionaire hedge fund manager and France's most eligible bachelor. But who cares? I'm James." He whistled. A door on the roof opened and a small army of butlers came striding out, bearing a freestanding bathtub, candles, towels, and a bottle of champagne. They filled the bathtub using crystal carafes of water, proffered Amelia a bathrobe, and tested the water temperature. "We'll leave you to it then," said James. "Let's go, gentlemen." The butlers retreated single file back into the building. James followed them. "You can stay if you want," said Amelia. "How about forever?" said James. "Definitely tonight." She leaned forward and took his hand. Glimmering diamonds of life they were, washing each other on the rooftop under the moonlight, sharing the scars in their bodies and souls, recalling stories from high school, and acting completely themselves. The end.